Join me in welcoming my special guest, Bob Burg, author of The Go-Giver. Please introduce yourself, Bob.
Hi, Maria. Great to be here. Great to be with everyone. And yeah, right now I'm just a 66-year-old, semi-retired speaker and author. Semi only because I'm not traveling anymore. I'm not getting on any more planes. So having a lot of fun and just continuing to do what it is I do, whatever that may be.
I love when people say semi-retired or I'm, what was that? There was somebody else, which is I'm a recovering retired business person.
Recovering, yes. I'll never retire as long as I'm having fun, but I just don't want to ever step on a plane again. I did it for 35 years. And I always, don't get me wrong, I loved being a speaker and having an opportunity to meet so many wonderful people, be on so many great stages. But I never really enjoyed the traveling part. And, one of the good things about getting older, you're nowhere near that yet. So you got a long way to go there. But for people like me, we know one of the nice things about getting older is you do less things that you don't want to do and you just do the things you want to do.
So I know I'm young and I still have a lot to live, but luckily I have a very insightful wife, which she has taught me that we should just do the things that we want to do.
Well, sure, of course, and whenever you can. So let me put it in context that as a speaker, which I really love doing, okay, I really had to travel because I was good, but not that good. They weren't going to come to me. And so yeah, I had to put up with, I had to obviously put up with things I didn't want to do for the things I really did want to do, right? And so, but yeah, she's absolutely correct. Of course, all things being equal, you want to create that environment where you could be doing the things you want to do 95% of the time, and some of the other things that you still might have to do, but you don't place your focus on that.
Yeah, as much as possible. I like that. I like that balance where you have to have a little bit of discomfort so that you can achieve what it is that you're trying to achieve overall. Thank you again for being here today. I'd love to give the viewers of this program a little bit of a blurb on the Go Giver. Would you mind giving us just like a little snippet of what the whole premise is about?
Yeah, so it's a, business parable, co-authored with John David Mann, who's an absolutely fantastic, writer, storyteller, and entrepreneur, and it's a story about a guy named Joe, who is a young, ambitious, up-and-coming, good guy, sales professional, but has his focus in the wrong place. It's really all about him. It's who owes what to Joe, it's Joe meeting his quota, and what he comes to learn, he meets a mentor and then several other people. And what he really comes to learn is this, and here's the premise, Maria, that shifting your focus, and this is really where it all begins, shifting your focus from getting to giving. And when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it's the most financially profitable way as well. That's what it's about. And it's not for any kind of way out there, woo-woo, magical, mystical type of reasons. Oh, just give and good things will happen. No, not at all. It's a lot more logical than that. It's more practical than just that. Really, when you're that person who can take your focus off of yourself and place it on serving others, discovering what they need, what they want, what they desire. When you can make it not about you, but about helping them solve and overcome their problems and challenges, when you can take your focus off you and put it on moving them closer to happiness, people feel good about you. Actually, they feel great about you, right? They want to get to know you. They like you. They trust you. They want to be in relationship with you. They want to do business with you. They want to tell the world about you. They want to be what we call your personal walking ambassadors. And that's really what it's about. And then we demonstrate that through 5 laws, what we call the laws of stratospheric success.
Yeah, I love the comparison you made with, become being a taker and then becoming a giver, right? So a receiver and a giver. And people often forget that when you are a giver, you can often accomplish a sense of fulfillment because you're providing value to other people. And that's part of the what you talk about in the book.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And again, when we really look at what it is, there's nothing self-sacrificial about it. For example, one of the things, and I know you work with a lot of salespeople and entrepreneurs, and I recall those days when I was on the road and I'd be speaking at a sales conference. One of the first things I would say to these salespeople and entrepreneurs is nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet, right? They're not going to buy from you because you need the money, have a sales goal, would like the sales to happen, or even because you're a really nice human being. They're going to buy from you because they believe that they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. And when you think about it, that's the only reason really why anyone should buy from you or from me or from anyone else. So but this is great news actually for that salesperson or entrepreneur who really has a heart for serving, right? Who really wants to make that other person's life better through their product, through their service, through those other elements of what they add to the experience.
So tell us a little bit about those 5 laws. What are each of them and how should people start to follow them?
So the five laws themselves are the laws of value, compensation, influence, authenticity, and receptivity. If we go with the first one, the law of value, this says that your true worth, and of course, we're talking in the business sense, your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now, when you first hear that, Maria, it sounds a little counterintuitive, doesn't it? Give more in value than I take in payment sounds like a recipe for bankruptcy. So we simply have to understand the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar amount, it's a dollar figure, it's finite, it is what it is, right? Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, what have you, that brings so much worth or value to that other person that they will willingly, in this case, let's say, exchange their money for it and be glad they did, while you make a very healthy profit. May I just share a quick example? So let's say you hire an accountant to do your taxes, and she charges you, and we're going to just name a round figure, $1,000. That's her fee, or literally her price, $1,000. What's the value she provides to you? Well, through her experience, her focus on you, getting to know you, your business, what you're looking to accomplish, she's able to save you, let's just say, $5,000 in taxes. She saves you countless hours of time, freeing you up to do what you do best, what you'd rather be doing, what you can be more productively doing. And she provides you and your family with the security and the peace of mind of knowing it was done correctly. So she gave you well over $5,000 in value in exchange for $1,000 fee or price. She literally gave you more in value than she took in payment. You feel great about it. And she also made a very healthy profit because to her, it was worth it to her to exchange her time, her energy, her knowledge, right, for that fee. So you both came out ahead. In fact, really, in any free market exchange. And when I say free market, I simply mean no one's forced to do business with anyone else, right? In any free market exchange, there should always be two profits, the buyer profits and the seller profits, because each of them comes away better off afterwards than they were beforehand. The key to this, though, is that this happened not because she was focused on her fee. She was focused on the immense value, the exceptional value she was providing you. Her fee was basically the reward. This is why John David Mann and I say that money is simply an echo of value. It's the thunder to value's lightning, which means the focus must be on the value you're providing that person. The money you receive is a natural result of that value. It's the same when you coach someone. You coach an entrepreneur to transform their business, make a lot more money, have a lot more fun in what they're doing, receive a lot more referrals to, make all these things you do. Okay. You're charging a fee for, and a healthy fee for, which you should, because you're helping them attain much, much, much more than what they're paying for. And you make a profit. So again, that's really the law of value in a nutshell.
How do people start to analyze, hey, this is the amount of value that I'm providing? And I guess that's where a lot of like pricing issues come up with small business owners where they don't either realize their value or they feel like they're giving too much value and then they end up raising their prices and it's not the right pricing structure. How do people start to analyze, hey, this is the value that I'm provided, this is what my worth is, and how do you think they can get to a good figure at that point?
There are actually a couple different elements to that as well, because first of all, pricing's always an issue because you've got to go, you've got to understand what the market will bear. But I want to see people on the upper end of the price echelon, and I'll tell you why. And of course, you already know this. I'm sure you teach it, that when you sell on low price, you're a commodity, right? When you sell on high value, you're a resource, right? And when you're a resource, you can charge more money, which you should because you're providing more value. So, I think it's first, and that's why having a coach like yourself who can help someone work through that is always very, very important. The big thing I think is first, yes, as you said, you've got to have the confidence. You've got to know your value. You've got to be able to define your own value. Okay. You also have to be able to effectively communicate your value. But as you know, you don't communicate it by telling someone how valuable you are. You do it by asking them questions in order to discover what it is they need, want, desire that you can help them accomplish. And to the degree, and my great friend Jeff West says that you want your questions and the discovery session to be so good that they end up telling themselves what they need to hear. And there's a big difference between them telling themselves what they need to hear and us telling themselves what they need to hear. And so when we can do that, that's really when we are able to distinguish ourselves. There's also, because so many people work in a market that is very much a commodity. I mean, just most products and services are pretty much commoditized. You've got to be able to distinguish yourself. How? Well, I think the short answer is you become that additional value, right? Because they're buying you before they're buying your product or service, before they're buying your company, and what you do. So how do you do that then? Well, the good news is there are dozens, if not hundreds of ways to communicate that additional value, but they tend to come down to what John and I call 5 elements of value. And those elements of value are excellence, consistency, attention. And when we say attention, to them as a person, not just a prospect, right? Empathy and appreciation. And to the degree that you're able to communicate one or more, hopefully all 5 of those elements of value at every touch point, that's the degree to which you distinguish yourself from the rest and are able to take price out of the equation.
I think that's one of the main reasons why that book resonated so well with me because it speaks so much to what coaching is. And people often mistake coaching for consulting. Consulting is where, here, this is what I think you should do, and here's a plan that you're going to implement. Whereas coaching is where you ask those questions and they provide the insight. Because as you mentioned, there is better buy in when somebody comes up with the idea themselves and they have that ownership and they know, hey, this is what I want to do. What type of questions would you say are good open ended questions to start a conversation and figure out what somebody's highest value is so that you can then, because this is what I teach my clients, is that you have to figure out first what their values are before you start pushing your own on them, because not everything's going to be a good fit.
That's totally right. And I think the questions that you ask depend on that person and their business and what they do. That's why it's very important a lot of times to work a niche market, work a really targeted market, because you tend to know, after a while, you begin to know what it is they need. Thus, you can know how to ask those questions that are going to help them to identify them and tell themselves what they need to know. Now, even within, though, a very tightly niche market, and the general questions to ask, you've still got to be able to understand that people are still individuals. And as such, they have their own unique way of seeing the world. their own way of looking at their own challenges and problems. They value different things in different ways. So trying to come up with a one size fits all, even for a market you're familiar with, is often going to really come back to haunt you. When we talk about value being, the relative worth, well, that's exactly what it is. It's relative. It means different things to different people, and it's always in the eyes of the beholder. So value is not what we believe is of value. It's not what we believe they should believe is of value. It's what they believe is of value. And those are what the questions have to help us discover.
And I like that you mentioned niching down and figuring out what industries you want to work with or what type of individuals. That was actually one of my factors that I used in order to get an accountant. When I owned my print shop, I found an accountant and I was interviewing a bunch of them, and I found one that had owned a print shop previously. And so I found value in that because they knew what I was talking about. They knew exactly what I needed, everything. I didn't have to explain myself on multiple occasions. And I use that now, having owned the print shop and sold it with my coaching business. I say, hey, this is my differentiator. I know what the print industry needs. And I have a lot of marketing and PR company clients because I understand their lingo. And people forget to use that niche and that expertise to create value.
So very true. I think that's really interesting about that with, that accountant happened to own a print shop. I mean, you can't do much better than that.
No, and it was yeah, I mean, it was so random when I was at that wasn't a question that I asked them, but they knew to say that to me. And it's knowing, well, as you mentioned, it's that active listening of having the conversation with people in order to be able to serve them better. So I had a question with regards to, as people are starting to build value and they're starting to serve people, there is often a little bit of a disconnect when they start caring more about how they feel when they help the people than when the other people achieve their goals and services. Because obviously, you're going to feel more motivated, you're going to feel happy that you're helping these people, but often it becomes a little bit of an ego thing, and you start shifting again to the taking, whereas you're helping because of how people make you feel. How can people deal with a little bit of that disconnect?
Well, I think it's awareness has a lot to do with it. There's certainly nothing wrong with feeling great about what you do and about helping people. That's a wonderful thing. It's, are you being controlled by that or not? And when that becomes when that's controlling you, that's the ego acting, right? As opposed to your focus being on helping that other person and the result being you feel great about yourself. So to answer the question, I think it really comes to awareness, um, understanding ourselves, and if we have a propensity to go in that direction, it's making sure we have someone around us who's able to tell us this, and that we're able to accept it, and or at least consider it without defensiveness. I think that's so very key. Another great reason for having a coach such as you to keep that.
Agree. Yeah, I was gonna say that, or often it's the spouse. You gotta make sure that you're able to share what you're doing and how you're feeling with the spouse, because they'll be quick to put you in your place.
Right, exactly.
So as I was reading the book and I was getting more information as to what I was doing and what I had done to grow my business, and I was like, this is exactly what I did. I hadn't read your book before I did, but I had been applying some of the principles already. And I one of my the reasons why I launched my coaching business was because I did grow my business by providing additional value to the product and service that I was doing, and people saw that and they started asking me, "Hey, can you teach me how to do what you do?" So I started doing some workshops and I started teaching people how to do that, and I called it networking with purpose, because it's what is the reason behind that. I would love to hear sort of the story behind what started you and John starting that book. Like, what was the story that made you write that book and realize that this was the way that people should start conducting themselves?
So a long time ago, back in the '90s, or I guess '94, I think. I had a book come out called Endless Referrals, and the subtitle was Network Your Everyday Contacts into Sales. It was a how-to book, and it was sort of one of the first books out there on business networking, actually, back before there were lots and lots of great books that came out. This was, I think, it was one of three books at the time, and it was really written for entrepreneurs and salespeople who knew they had a great product or service. They knew it added lots of value to people's lives, but they didn't necessarily feel confident or comfortable going out into their local communities and developing the kinds of relationships where people would want to do business with them directly and or refer them to others. So it was really it was a step by step sort of confidence building how to book. And the basic premise was that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. Um, Now, again, it was how to, but I'd always, since I'd been in sales, and I've been in sales now for 40 years, I'd always loved reading business parables. Parables are stories. And as you know, stories connect on a deeper level, a heart to heart, kind of level. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if, one day we could take this basic idea and turn it into a parable? Well, I'm a how-to writer, not a parable writer, and so nothing ever really happened with this. I had a couple of other books after that, and then in the early 2000s, I began writing a monthly column for a magazine, and the editor in chief was John David Mann. Now, even back then, John had a fantastic reputation as a great writer and storyteller and so forth, and he was a fantastic editor. And our
And for a reason to that effect. Thanks for sharing that quote about people do business with people they know, like, and trust, because that's actually something I use on a regular basis for a lot of my workshops and a lot of my teachings, for sure.
Yeah, and yeah, that's kind of I think if there's one thing I got known for, it was that from, and I was saying that before I even put it in endless referrals. Um, and I think one of the important parts about it is the beginning part about all things being equal, because as important as the relationship is, if things are not equal, or even close to equal, let's say, then the relationship isn't going to necessarily come into play. So you've got to be able to do what that person needs. You've got to be able to deliver the goods. But all things being equal, or again, even close enough to equal, indeed, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust.
Correct. The need has to be there. Bob, thank you so much. To close it off, I would love to hear if there's any piece of advice that has been a resounding factor in what you do? Is there like, what's the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Maria, I would go back to 38 years ago because I said I started in sales 40 years ago, and I began without knowing anything about sales, and I floundered for the first 3 months. I had never had any formal or informal sales training. Got a couple books at the library, and I'm not the library, at the bookstore, and studied them. And immediately my sales within a few weeks just began to do well. I had a system now, I had a methodology. And personally, I define a system as the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how to principles. The key being predictability. If it's been proven that by doing A, you'll get the desired results of B, then all you need to do is A and continue to do A, and you'll get the desired results of B. And so that was working for me, and I was doing pretty well. And then I went to a new company, not a new company, but another company a couple of years later, and I started out in a sales slump and could not get out of it. And I became a lot like Joe in the story. I was focusing just on myself and trying to make the sale and try right. And fortunately, there was an older guy at the company. I did not know him very well. He didn't say much, but he was and he wasn't even in the sales department. I think he was an engineer, and he retired soon after. But he was one of these people, and I'm sure you've met people like this. He didn't say a lot, but whenever he did say something, it was always pretty profound. And so he fortunately, I think, saw me as someone with potential, even though I was not doing well. And he said, Berg, he was a last name kind of guy. He said, Berg, can I give you some advice? And I said, please do. I really need it. And he said, if you want to make a lot of money in sales, he said, don't have making money as your target. Your target is serving others. Now, when you hit the target, he said, you'll get a reward, and that reward will come in the form of money. And you can do with that money whatever you choose. But never forget, he said, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It's not the target itself. Your target is serving others. And Maria, I think at that moment I came to realize something, that great salesmanship is never about the salesperson, that great salesmanship is never about the product or service itself. As important as those are, that's never what it's about. Great salesmanship is about the other person. It's about that person whose life you're trying to add value to. Or perhaps we could even more accurately say, it's about that person whose life is better just because you are part of it. And I think that when we come at sales from that foundational premise, we're really 9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game.
Thank you, Bob. If anybody wishes to reach out to you and connect with you, what's the best way for them to do so?
Just to go to burg.com. And while there, they can, if they like, subscribe to my daily impact email, which they send out Monday through Friday morning.
Amazing. Thanks again. And I hope to continue to speak with you as my career goes forward. And I enjoy learning from you today.